Hello and welcome to the Tarka Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about the game Diablo 4, and we're going to be talking about the Corpse Explosion Build and Explained. It's an article from Game Rant. I will provide the link below in the comments, so if you'd rather just go read this for yourself, go click on that link right now and go do that. I'm just going to go over the build quickly here in this video for those people who maybe just at work, just putting around, just like to watch content, Diablo content. Well, here you go. I've got a little bit here for you. So we're just going to scroll down to where they really talk about the build. Rather than apply damage over time in a large area effect like the Necromancer's Blight Commander build, which is a different build altogether, the Corpse Explosion build focus on dealing burst DPS on mobs of enemies. Once players get the associated skill leveled up, the activation of the Corpse Explosion skill triggers a devastating chain reaction capable of clearing the scene in mere seconds. Between the staggering amounts of DPS it delivers and the ability to look cool while doing so, the Corpse Explosion build is a perfect example of why the Necromancer class is arguably the most popular in Diablo 4. So this is the explosion build, and then there's a link here for the Necromancy Blight Commander build, which I can do another video on. So let's just scroll down here and let's just talk about the abilities that they're talking about that you're going to need for this build. Outside the active skills necessary for the build, the Grim Harvest passive skill will allow for more essence to be generated after each successful corpse explosion, creating a never-ending loop of destruction. After players acquire the aspect of explosive mist, corpse explosion becomes even more deadly by triggering automatically and at a higher speeds thanks to the blood mist. The end result is a necromancer that is effectively invincible, moving through groups of enemies and melting them in their wake. If becoming a walking wave of death is how one wants to play Diablo 4, Corpse Explosion is the way to go. One of the abilities you'll need is Reap. Reap is a prerequisite skill for the Corpse Explosion build and will be the primary attack players will use until they can unlock Bone Spear. The primary benefit to the Reap is that it has a distant range and also produces a corpse that can be reanimated as a Necromancer minion or exploded to deal damage to surrounding enemies. In the early hours of Diablo 4, players using the Corpse Explosion build will essentially alternate between spamming Reap and immediately into Corpse Explosion until Bone Spear is unlocked. Bone Spear. Once unlocked, Bone Spear will become one of the two anchor skills for the Corpse Explosion build. Bone Spear allows a Necromancer to handle Diablo 4's encounter with ease while also generating plenty of corpses to detonate using Corpse Explosion or Blood Mist once the aspect has been unlocked. In addition to needing the max out the base skill, players will want to upgrade it to Supernatural Bone Spear to get the added vulnerability debuff on the first enemy hit. Okay, Corpse Explosion, obviously you're going to need this one. Once players hit enemies with their primary attack and have significantly drained their essence, they want to activate Corpse Explosion to put all those dead bodies to work. As the anchor skill of the build, Corpse Explosion turns the Necromancer into one of the best damage-dealing classes in Diablo 4. In conjunction with the Grim Harvest skill, each activation of the Corpse Explosion will restore essence and allow players to continue using Bone Spear while switching back to Corpse Explosion, then rinse and repeat until the entire screen has been wiped. Grim Harvest. Grim Harvest serves as a somewhat of a linchpin to the Corpse Explosion build in that it transforms Corpse Explosion from a pure damage dealing skill into that of a regenerates essence. By leveling up the Grim Harvest, players restore their essence at a faster rate, allowing them to quickly swap between Bone Spear and Corpse Explosion without needing to worry about their resource pool. Despite the changes made to Diablo 4's Necromancer between the open beta and the server slam, Grim Harvest is still essential for any build relying on the Corpse Explosion skill. How to use Corpse Explosion build against enemies and bosses. The general strategy for handling large groups of enemies involving netting encounters by using either Reap or Bone Spear until the Necromancer's essence pool has been depleted and the battlefield is littered with corpses, any remaining enemies can be almost instantaneously vaporized by activating corpse explosion and triggering a domino effect of more corpses appearing and essence being regenerated. In terms of handling the moment-to-moment encounters in Sanctuary, the corpse explosion build will make traversing Diablo 4's dungeons and environments a relative breeze. The strategy shifts for dealing with any Diablo 4's challenging boss encounters thanks to the lack of available corpses. Instead of sorely relying on switching between Reap and Bone Spear and Corpse Explosion, players will want to reanimate some skeleton warriors with the Reaper passive so that they simply have to hit enemies rather than outright kill them to generate corpses. Once players unlock the Golem at 25, they can just deploy it instead, and thanks to the perk that generates a corpse once a goblin has lost 20% of its health, regardless of whether dealing with mobs or elite bosses, the Corpse Explosion build is a serious contender for the best DPS build in Diablo 4. So there it is. You can come to this article and read it for yourself. I read it quick. I'm sorry that sometimes I stutter on my way through, but it's definitely a build that people were using, and I saw how devastating it was. I mean, I saw one of my friends that were playing the build, how they were playing it, but they also were playing this Blight build, and honestly the Blight build was pretty crazy nasty, and I'll do a video on that in the future. But there you have it, folks. I'll link this below, and I want to thank you for joining me, and this has been The Darkest Zone.